Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of NFA Live. Do not adjust your sets. It is just the two of us today. Today, I am joined by Rob from Digital Asset News. Rob, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing pretty good. We seem kind of light today. It's like there's just something that's just not here. I don't know what it is.
I can't think. There's something or someone missing. It just seems a little too streamlined.
Yeah, some kind of dominance talk, something bleeding, something oscillator. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, Ben is away today. I can't remember whether he had family commitments or whether he was just too busy arguing with people on Twitter about his calls on Bitcoin dominance and just flaming all those haters. It's one of the two. But obviously, the fact that Ben isn't here means that Rob and I can talk about Bitcoin dominance to our heart's content.
Finally.
So it'll probably just be, a solid 45 to an hour on that. And then, maybe we'll talk about, there's not much else been happening in crypto the last few days, is there?
Yeah, 45 to an hour minimum. Maybe we can finally have Ben shut up about his meme coins. So this will be good.
I know. It's Ben. You just get Ben started on all those meme coins, all those ones he's been launching, and it's just exhausting, isn't it? That guy.
Yeah. Rug pull dominance, maybe. Okay.
Okay, everyone. Yes, please do, as Will with all those L's says, please do smash the like button. And if you have any questions, I think it'll be a little bit more of a streamlined session today because it's just kind of Rob and I going back and forth rather than the three of us. So if you do have questions that you'd like to ask us, please do put them in the comments and we will do our best to answer them either at the end or as we go along. Please do keep those excellent comments coming because there's always a few gems hidden in amongst there, which I'll try and bring up on screen as we go along. But Rob, let's make a start. Let's talk about the very small matter, the blink and you'll miss it thing that happened sort of over the weekend. This business of the president of Argentina. It still feels surreal saying this. The president of Argentina tweeting his support for a meme coin, which then ran up to what was it, a $4 billion market cap and pretty much all the way down again in less than an hour, has just set crypto Twitter alight once again. As it says in the caption there, Ben was tweeting that he thinks it could destroy crypto. So, Rob, can I just get your initial thoughts on it? Like, did you see it happening live? Did you sort of wake up to this? And what were your first thoughts when you heard about it?
Well, I didn't know what the heck was going on until after it all happened. Because when you talked about, blink and you'll miss it, that's pretty much what happened here. If you can just check this out. This is a timeline. And everybody who's in the comments section or in the chats, if you got questions as we go through this, just stick them in there like I talked about, because I think if we can do free flow and answer questions as we go through instead at the end, I think it might be smooth. But check, this is the crazy thing. If you actually, where it says Libra, we have to talk about it. If you remove that, actually, hold on, let me see if I can do this.
Yeah, hang on, let me take that banner out because I think people will know what we're talking about.
Yeah, it's fine. So right there, you can see everything started around 1700 hours. 5 p.m. It took off like lightning, and then roughly into 45 minutes into it, then all the different. And I'm not going to say there's insider trading. I'm going to let CoffeeZilla do the talking for me on that one. But you can see within 45 minutes who were the anointed ones, who were the ones that knew what it was. And within 6, 7, 8, roughly another 10, 20, 30 minutes, you were half of the market cap. And then within 2 hours, you were done. And that's a blink and you'll miss it type of thing. And if you take a look at this, this is the price I think this is the Libra token. There's 4 of them. But from what I can see, the contract address is the same. And it's pretty much down and to the right. And there was people have said, CoffeeZilla did great. He did 2 videos on this one. And this is the one where he's talking to Hayden from Kelsier. And essentially that guy, everybody should watch this video, because that's what you don't do when you're interviewed. If you did something wrong, you don't want to go there and be like, you know what, I totally did insider trading, and but I'm sure people will see it my way. So that, I don't know why he did that.
Do you think, Rob, that Sam Bankman-Fried was watching that from his prison cell going, no, don't do that. That's what I did. That's what got me here. Stop.
Don't do that. Well, I mean, SBF's like, finally, I get another guy to share my cell with. So, I mean, you've got that going on. And then, I mean, it was a great interview. And
yeah.
But the thing is like, when you talk about like the big thing, and I'm going to stop right here. How do you see this guy right now? Do you see this as like, because like when Ben talked about it, I saw his post where it could destroy crypto and these types of things. Do you think this specifically could destroy it? Or is it just like another nonsense that we have to go through to get to the promised land?
Yeah, it's a good question. And it's an interesting one, because I think initially when you see this happening, so in the sort of immediate fallout from it, sort of at the beginning of this week, I think I did kind of feel it's like, is this kind of one of these not extinction level events, but like, is this is so bad. This is so bad. And like, I still feel that, but I don't think it will destroy crypto, and I don't think it can. But I just feel things like this, it just sets us back so much. We hadn't made up all the ground that we lost so much ground with FTX in particular. Obviously, there were other scandals around FTX, kind of either side of it, but that was the big one. We lost so much ground, and the intervening time, we've been, well-meaning people in the industry have been trying to kind of claw us back and trying to build cool stuff. And trying to be like, look, this is not what we are. Sam Bankman-Fried has gone to jail deservedly for a very long time. We kind of felt like we moved past it. FTX repayments are now happening. It feels like we're so close to kind of moving past that, and then something like this happens. And I think the thing that really irks me about it at this point in time is like the Elizabeth Warrens of this world must be loving this. They must be looking at this and going, I told you, there we are. I told you, whole thing's a scam. Whole thing's a scam. What did I say? Send them all to jail, tear them down, et cetera, et cetera. And you're just like,
well, yeah, her and Gary.
All right. Gary must be sitting there in the MIT staff room, with just laughing his ass off.
Yeah,
laughing his ass off. In fact, someone's put that in the comments actually.
Yeah, and you know what? They're right, and they should be laughing, because it did happen. But I agree with you that it's not going to destroy crypto, because I think that there's projects that are out there that are much stronger than this. But I look at this as actually like a positive. I'm going to tell you why. It's because I think that, and you could see it because, Guy, you've been around longer than I have. You saw, Bitcoin was the first. Then you had a bunch of crap projects that kind of came around. And of course, you're a Bitcoin max. You say all the projects are crap, but there's some other good ones out there. Like Ethereum came around and actually proved its mettle. You had stable coins, and that actually worked out pretty well. And then it seemed like when we devolved into the ICOs in 2017 or so, 2016, 2017, then we recouped. And then in 2021, we saw the NFTs and the other bad projects that came out, and those came out underneath us. So it's like every single cycle we've had something weaker and weaker and weaker. And now I think we've hit, like for alcoholism, you've hit rock bottom. You can't go worse than meme coins. Those are probably famous last words. But thank God this actually happened now. It's on the global stage, and everybody can look at that and go, okay, that's the problem with crypto, that type of stuff. And now maybe people can say, okay, well, let's get back to actually the stuff that actually works. Let's get back into the DeFi. Let's get back into the actual DePIN. Let's get into actual AI project. And let's really make like Bitcoin the focus and move from there. And thank God it happened now, because we've got the whole rest of the year to run up. So that's how I see it, even though it kind of sucks right now.
Yeah. Yeah, as you were saying that, Rob, about kind of diminishing returns, isn't it? And you can't get stupider than meme coins. I kind of feel someone out there is going to be watching this and going, I've got an idea. I think we can go there. I think we can get stupider than meme coin. I hope you're right. Like it does feel that we've sort of plumbed the depths now. It's like we've got as like brain rottingly stupid as you'd think it's possible to get. Although, kind of one of the things I almost love in a way about crypto is that it can still surprise you. It can surprise you in a good way, and it can surprise you in a bad way. So yeah, it's it never say never. But yeah. So what are we looking at here? This is capital lost.
Yeah, this was what I was doing was the co-founder of Meteora, who was kind of responsible for this whole thing. Ben Chow, he resigns, and he was actually recorded during this time with another individual, and he said this is an FTX extinction level event. And I was thinking about it. I go, I wonder if it's really that bad. I think for capital loss, we can take a look at the Libra meme coin collapse. And yeah, like this at this point, you can see there was a ton of money that was gobbled up by those insiders, which I think they're still insiders. I could be wrong. Roughly 87.4 million here, I think 109 million towards the end. But you got to remember that the actual total market cap of 4 billion isn't really 4 billion. We all know that. We can't just extract $4 billion. It is just a multiplier. But you can see that investor losses, 251 million. There was wallets that lost, wallets losing 1 million plus was 40.9, and 86% of traders lost $1,000 more, or 1,000 or more that they got into it. So yeah, it's a pretty bad situation. I think for the optics of it is pretty bad, especially if you have the president of Argentina, and he was involved in this. I'm not for sure how much he was involved, because it seems like these guys behind Meteora and what is the name of it?
Kelsior,
yeah. Yeah. That they could be one of the main distractors of it. But I mean, remember this. I mean, when you just talked about getting through it, like FTX, Celsius, BlockFi, and Voyager, this was big time. I don't think this is an extension level event. Optics, yes. Capital, no. And I think maybe we can all finally realize that maybe this is just trash and move on.
Yeah. Well, you hope so. Because it's, I mean, I guess the sort of the really what it should show. First of all, I'd be really interested to know the kind of investor profiles of all the people who bought Libra and lost money on it, because if it were, and I think this is the big problem with having someone like Javier Milei involved, who's so such a public figure, and obviously in Argentina, and it really, I really hope that. Because I imagine a fair few Argentinians got into Libra after seeing their president tweet about it, because you can't exactly blame them for that to a large extent. So, but kind of part of me feels probably a large number of the investors who lost money on this were fairly experienced, meme coin degens, fairly experienced crypto people.
Yeah, I could see it. I mean, definitely.
Yeah.
But I mean,
if that's the case,
what? If that's the case,
if that's the case, then they deserved it. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, even though the optics are bad, if you have been in crypto for any length of time and you saw this and you YOLO'd into it, then you deserved it, because you should have known better. Like, what bothers me is that people who didn't know any better, people who genuinely thought this was something that Javier Milei was promoting, and it was because that was the setup, wasn't it? It was supposedly an attempt to fund to bring investment for small businesses in Argentina, and so a fair few people would have thought, that sounds cool. I want to support that. I just really hope that they were a minority, that people who really didn't have an awful lot to lose in the first place. I hope they were the minority of investors in this, and I hope most of the people who lost money, who lost big on this, at any rate, are experienced crypto people who frankly needed a smack around the head.
See, there you go. Perfect. Tough love from Guy as it should be. Look, me and Guy, I'm pretty sure we're on the same wavelength. We don't care if you gamble. If you gamble, fine. You know, whatever, if you want to do that. But just as long as you understand it's gambling. And if you didn't understand it's gambling, now you know. It's like when you're, you know, when your kid gets too close to the fire, you're like, okay, I could tell this kid 1,000 times don't touch that fire. Why just let him just nick his finger and get burnt once, and then he'll learn that for the rest of his life. So I know it's not something that people are like, oh, you should protect this. I'm not here to protect anybody. I'm here to try to educate as best as possible, just like Guy and his, you know, great crew that he's got. But I mean, this is on you guys, and that's how it is. Again, I have no problems with gambling. Have fun, just don't be a degen.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, I think a couple of other things kind of worth raising about this. One, this whole thing points to what a lot of people knew, or, you know, if they didn't know, they suspected, that so much of crypto, a large chunk of crypto at any rate, is shady stuff happening beneath the surface. Like this guy Hayden White, who I'd never heard of before. You know, he did that extraordinary video where he was wearing, seemed to be wearing like a Gryffindor cape or something, and you know, that was one of the first things I saw about it. You know, and I was just like, who is this guy? Like who is? I've never heard of him. And you know, the sort of more I thought about it and stuff, it was like, these people, there are a lot of these people around. You know, there are people like this throughout the crypto industry, and I've met a few of them. You know, I've come across them at events or whatever, and talked to them and stuff, and, you know, had them slide into my DMs later. And you sort of realize what they are. You know, they're these kind of like crypto adjacent sort of parasites who who have spotted an opportunity, and who, like, in a lot of cases, I think, came to the space with good intentions, came to the space like, this is really interesting technology. There is interesting stuff to be built here. There is money to be made here. Let's have a look. And then have either become jaded or cynical, or, you know, maybe they've been wrecked and just kind of lost faith or whatever. But I think you know, a lot of cases, if they weren't parasites before, have kind of turned into these parasites and are just here to milk the industry. And Hayden, you know, this Hayden White guy seems to be the absolute embodiment of that. But like, I just remember, once I'd sort of got over this ridiculous outfit he was wearing to make this incredibly important video, I was just like, yeah, I've seen this type of guy before. I know this sort of person. It's, you know, they are just everywhere. You lift a rock in crypto, and like half a dozen of them just sort of scuttle out, you know. And you know, it goes on to my second part of the point, which is like the reason that these people are able to exist and operate in this game is because Gary Gensler and co, who's currently laughing at us from MIT.
Yeah,
they did not do their job. They went after the wrong people. They went after the likes of Uniswap and Coinbase, who are trying to build useful things, and create, and didn't give us regulations. It gave us regulation by enforcement instead. Didn't give us clear rules of the road. And this is how the Hayden Whites of this world have been able to sort of fester and get their tentacles into this industry. And it's why they're still here. And until, like, I don't want to like spread all the blame onto Gary Gensler and the SEC, because it's the fault of, like, you know, it's an industry-wide failing. It's the fault of the people who bought into it. It's the fault of the people who promoted it behind the scenes, you know, who pumped and dumped it and stuff. But it is also the fact that, you know, Gary and co, they failed. They did not protect investors.
I never thought of it that way, but you're absolutely right. And I got to tell you, that's the problem with time allocation. You put it in the wrong place, and then you didn't do your job. And I guess that's why, if you don't do your job, that's why you're out of a job. So much the better. Yeah.
And I think, like, you know, I really hope that obviously it's Hester Pearce and Mark Ueda kind of running the show at the SEC until Paul Atkins? Is that Trump's nominee? I've had a mind blank. Is that Trump's nominee, Paul Atkins, for SEC?
I think so. But whoever he is, I gotta say, I'm hoping they can do better than Gary, especially to protect people, not just go after the exchanges that are trying to do the right thing, because there's some kind of marching orders from up above. Hopefully somebody gets it. But I gotta, as a reminder, I was cheering for Gary Gensler when he first came in because he got it. But wow, I was wrong on that one.
Me too. And yeah, I think as we were discussing on a previous stream, it's like, I guess we should be very, very careful about cheering for Paul Atkins at this stage, because we've been burnt on that stove before. But maybe this will be the positive to come out of it, because maybe you can point to Paul Atkins. Maybe Paul Atkins can point to this and go, this is this guy, this. I know, so bizarre, wasn't it? Paul Atkins has, this is what we're up against. This is what he needs to do. Like, forget going after Coinbase, forget going after Uniswap and all these other companies. Like, these guys, make this stop, make this harder to do, because that will protect investors. That will stop this kind of behavior. If any good comes of it, hopefully it's that, and we get the regulations that so many good people in crypto have been asking for such a long time. It's not about having favoritism. It's not about having special rules or anything like that. It's just like, just give us something we can work with, because otherwise we get Hayden White.
Oh, this is very true. And then of course everything starts to break down. And if you want to really think about it, I know some people hate it, but if you ever feel like you missed an opportunity, I guess, here's your mulligan. Here's where you can bring it back and go, okay, I think this product's going to do well because of this. So start to put money into. Remember, I think in the top 40 of altcoins, just the top 40, I mean, you're down between 30 to 70 something % for alts. Bitcoin, I mean, if you say, well, I think it's going to have a reserve or actually have something for it, maybe it's the opportunity that you're waiting for. It's not 108,000. I don't even know what it is. I'm thinking 94, 95,000 a day. So if you're looking for the opportunity, I think this is the time. So even though it sucks, there's actually a silver lining.
Yeah. I think you're right, Rob. It's like, and again, you and I have both been around in this industry for a while, and I think a lot of people watching this will be veterans of not the meme coin trenches per se, but the crypto trenches, And we have seen this before, when sentiment gets this bad, often there is a light not too far away. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. So it's very easy to sort of fall into a trough of despair and think, oh, this whole thing is cooked. Like, this isn't coming back. My bags are down terribly. Nothing's going to recover. It's so over, And as you said, like Bitcoin, I'm just looking now. Bitcoin's at 97K. It's almost at 98K. In fact, the market's gone up a little bit. This is good. These are good times, or they should be.
They should be.
But yeah, it's so difficult when so many people's bags are really alt heavy, or in a lot of cases meme heavy, and you just get a wipeout like this.
Yeah, exactly. And so again, I think it's actually there's always opportunities around. It just depends on how much you've actually followed some basic rules, right? Don't invest more than you can afford to lose. Take some profits along the way, that type of thing. Don't use leverage. You can do stuff like that. I think this is like, you're like, no, things aren't too bad. So I'll take these days.
Absolutely. And yeah, like I'm seeing a lot of that sort of advice on Twitter from people I respect and listen to, the likes of Raoul Powell and Kobe and people like this, saying, look, this isn't difficult. If you stay away from leverage, if you stack BTC, you're going to be okay. Like, okay, if you want to dabble in alts, that's on you. That's risky. But like, this isn't the hardest the market is ever going to be. It's just, and it's one of those cases where if you're not sure what to do, then the answer is nothing. Just sit on it, ride it out, and keep munching the popcorn, because obviously, like, things like this Libra scandal, I mean, there's so much more that's going to come from this, isn't there?
Yeah, exactly. And like how much are we really? I mean, how much are we down? Because I'll remind everybody that it's not so much about, you look at this, if you've been since 2021, there's been big drops throughout history, and this isn't even really a blip. So like, you can break that down by market cap, you can break that down by Bitcoin, and there's like a little, if you show this one guy, this is, I just went back for all the historical data and took a look at, what were the biggest one-day drops in total crypto market. And you had stuff in 2017, 29%. And that was in the bull run, 29% down, 37% in the coronavirus. May 2020, 30%, 25%. And that's just that's the market cap. That's the total market cap. Bitcoin, same thing. Now it's gone down as time has gone on. But I mean, if you feel like this is something that's too much, maybe it's not for you.
Yeah. No, it's tough, and I'm thinking back to some of those examples that you brought up in the previous slide. It's like, I remember when you would see red candles on the chart, and you would genuinely ask yourself, like, is this it? This could be it. Like,
this could be it.
Yeah, this Bitcoin, could be it. Bitcoin. It was a great experiment. It was brilliant. We learned a lot from it, but maybe this is it.
Yeah, exactly. I know someone. Yeah, exactly. Someone just brought up a point that, like, hey, I thought Ben wasn't here. You guys sound like Bitcoin maxis. It is amazing, like, how as time goes on, you start to kind of gravitate towards that. This is my third cycle, and I remember talking to Simon Dixon on the show when I first kind of rolled out the show not too long, and he told me, he goes, my old goal is every month just to have more Bitcoin than I had at the beginning of the month. I'm like, that doesn't sound like a really good strategy, because you can get into altcoins like, Luna and Voyager and Celsius. Those are good tokens. Those will also go to the moon. He's like, yeah, maybe. And now here we are.
Yeah. Yeah. The Bitcoin maxis are enjoying their moment in the sun, I think, because so far they're right. But I guess I think one of the things that really annoyed me about this whole Libra business, sort of at the start of the week when we were closer to it, and it felt sort of way more consequential than perhaps it is. But I really felt like, because I'm still fascinated by altcoins, like that's why I still hold altcoins. I'm still fascinated by all the things that you can do. Like Bitcoin is the king. It's the undisputed king, and if it's the only one that can possibly survive whatever you throw at it. Like everything else is way more precarious. But I'm still like absolutely fascinated by the potential of altcoins and what they can do. And there will never be one that's like Bitcoin. Bitcoin is, we don't need anything else than Bitcoin in that respect. But there are so many possibilities. The things that Ethereum unlocked back in 2015 and continue to unlock, the things that are being done now, Solana, okay, it's become the Memecoin casino, but like there's genuinely cool stuff on there. And we'll talk about, Sol ETH in a moment or so. But like, I'm still really fascinated by the whole altcoin space and what people are trying to do and what is possible, I think, to achieve. I'm just so pissed off that it's been 10 years. 10 years ago, Ethereum turns 10 this year. Yeah. 10 years, and like we're still sort of, it feels like we haven't advanced very far, or we've gone sort of in one direction and we've rebounded back, and we've come and we've alighted on meme coins. It's like we went up a load of ladders and then came down a massive snake.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I will say that it does take quite a bit of time. It's not as easy as like some people point to the internet and go, well, the internet took off and there was mass adoption. You're trying to essentially change the entire global financial system. And it's not just like in the internet came around and VOI and voice over internet protocol and things like that. You had pushback from like AT&T. You had pushback from some other information companies. You didn't have the big bankers and the people and powers that be pushing back on you. You didn't have the SEC fighting. I mean, you had the FTCC with voiceover, but you didn't have this much pushback and people not wanting it to happen. Also, you didn't have as many people in Congress and also in the legislative branch that were trying to move against it. I mean, just take a look at the EU and MICA and what they're trying to do over there and try to stifle innovation. It's actually progressed pretty well. I mean, for the people that are against it. So I'm like you, Guy. I like to see what's going on in the background with altcoins and good projects, and we're always looking for those things. But I am getting really damn sick about the meme coins and stuff like that because they're worthless, and it's just how it is. I mean, you can talk about a community, and that's great, and it is. But I mean, what does it do? How can it help us? How does it move humanity forward? I just don't get that part.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's move on and talk about, because you mentioned Solana and stuff, and I think that was another of the things I wanted to discuss. Before we do move on, I should apologize to the Hayden Whites of this world, who I've absolutely slandered by saying that they're responsible. I'm sorry. We were doing it. I was recording a video on this whole saga earlier today, so Hayden Davis's name should be much more at the front of my mind. So only Hayden. At least I didn't say Hayden Adams, because the Uniswap guy, because he was getting a lot of heat on
no kidding.
People thinking it was him. So apologies to Haydens everywhere, apart from Hayden Davis, who apart from this dude, who is
not that guy.
Thanks, Mike20 for correcting me there. God, I'm getting old and losing my mind. Okay, Rob, let's talk about Sol ETH, and this is obviously, like, a question kind of on Solana and Ethereum's kind of respective ecosystems and where we are now. But yeah, this was pointed out to me just earlier today. Sol ETH has now retraced all the gains that we've seen since Trump's election. So is it now ETH's chance to shine? And to flip that, is Solana at a turning point? Is Sol at a turning point? What are your thoughts, Rob?
So there was a good question, and the big thing I have to make mention is that I know people will say, well, Solana is evil because it has all these different pump fund things going on it, and there's rug pulls. I want to make a distinction. The chain is agnostic. It has no feelings. It has no religion. It's just the chain. And depending on what you think of what is decentralized and what is not decentralized, and what has great fees and has fast transactions, is at this point not talking about evil versus good. Solana is Solana. It's the people that are in it that are screwing it up. And that is something to, you have to be aware of that. There's good projects on Solana. There's things that are happening. There's, Helium with mobile tech and unlimited talk text and data type of plans type of thing. There was one called Transport, supposed to be like a decentralized rideshare app, which just went under, unfortunately, as some businesses do. But if we take a look at Solana, as far as like the price itself, and I'll get into Ethereum in a second. But Solana over the last, it actually had a little bit of rebound, but over 30 days, I think it was down 40%. So it actually rebounded just a little bit. I know people will say, well, this is only because of what's going on with all these meme coins and things like that. And that's not just the case with Solana. And before I go on, I own Solana. I want it to do well. I own Ethereum. I want it to do well. I own a lot more Bitcoin, and I really want that to keep doing well. But you have to take a look at what's happening. One of those is the DEX volumes has declined by 91% in 30 days. To be fair, though, this decline in volume, and Guy, what do you think about this? Because it's kind of misleading on this one, because you have a big, huge spike here, as I point out, but then it goes down to like pretty much the same baseline. And it looks like it peaked at 35, which is a lot, 35 billion in daily volume, and now 3.1. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, it points to just how at the moment, how reliant Solana's volumes certainly have been on memes, and that that points to the public perception of the chain. And I think this is something that you touched on just a moment ago, Rob. It's like you can't blame the chain. And there's a great comment that someone posted earlier. I just want to bring this up here. Sol will be fine. It's weird to blame the fastest, cheapest network for being used by scammers. If anything, it proves it's the best one. I think that's really true. I think that's a really good point. Solana has, for all its faults, like let's not stand here and claim that Solana is perfect by any means, but for all its faults, it came back from the brink with FTX, in the wake of FTX, and it has gone on to become the consumer chain. It has gone on to do all the things that we kind of wanted from a chain, and that Ethereum couldn't give us. We wanted fast and cheap transactions. Ethereum sort of, how about these layer twos, blah, blah, blah. Solana was just like, here you are, fast and cheap transactions. Mm-hmm. The fact that people have gone, the fact that people created pump.fun and then the fact that other people went absolutely bananas on it, that's down to the users. I don't see how Solana itself can be blamed. If anything, it's an amazing kind of proof of concept. It's like, okay, yeah, a whole lot of stupidity is possible, but that means that a whole load of other things are possible as well. A whole load of transactions with legitimate apps, and like you were saying, Rob, there are so many things building on Solana. I was trying earlier. I've got a Solana ecosystem map downloaded from Masari, I think it was, and I'm trying to figure out a way to share it on my screen with you. But looking at it, there's a deep in section, there's an RWAs section. There's a really interesting section just called payments, and Solana. We did a video on PayFi recently. This is going to be huge for Solana. It's really leaning into sort of payments, stable coins, etc. So, yeah, okay. A lot of the volume was coming from meme coins. Sooner or later, that was going to come to an end, and the sooner it does come to an end, the better, because I think Solana is capable of so much more.
Yeah, and then just to piggyback on your points, like Solana is good and it's great, but then there's always gonna be people that say, well, what about the decentralization part, and what about the safety part, and there's all these different failed transactions. I get all that stuff, and it's not my job to say you should invest in this or should invest in that. I'm just, this is the information that we have. And like with Ethereum, you can go to DeFiLlama.com and find all this stuff. Like as far as like TVL, if you go to like as far as the total volume locked, I want to say it's $140 billion. For some reason, this website is slow today. Yeah, 142 billion. Out of that is like 80 billion of TVL. And then Solana's got, again, as it's kind of decreased, it's roughly around 10.5 or 11 billion. But the big question is, like how much is getting locked up? And if you go to Ethereum, it actually has decreased a little bit. But then you have to think, well, what about the layer twos like Guy just talked about? What about the bases of the world, the Arbitrum, the Polygons, or whatever else is out there that's TVL'd, that's locked up? And that's just the big thing about Ethereum versus Solana. I will say, though, I don't know if anybody's noticed this. Have you used Solana lately? I was just using it to make a relatively big transaction, but the increase in prices, like before it was like a fraction of a penny, now it's like 3 cents. I know people are like, ooh, 3 cents, but I did notice this. I don't know if anybody else has. Have you seen it?
I haven't noticed this recently, no, but that's interesting. That's
yeah,
interesting, because I mean, 3 cents on the face of it is nothing, but if you're like, if you're looking for an app doing micropayments or something like that, pay for large amounts of payments, that's no good. Like, that's not going to work.
It's no good, but I mean, 3 cents is 3 cents. I just thought it was interesting. I'm like, because there used to be fractions and then now it's this, but who knows what happens? I don't know. But there is a big thing. I think we've talked about this on your show, the unlocks. And yes, there's a lot of different crypto and digital assets that are having unlocks. But as a reminder, Solana is on March 1st. Looks like 15 million SOL tokens with $2.5 billion. And again, yes, there's other projects that have unlocks, but not as big as, say, Solana. So if you think, why is the price going down? Or there's a little rebound today, but why is the price going down next week or in a couple of days? So take a look at these reasonings and go from there.
Yeah. Definitely unlocks are something to factor in, and it's something that I've noticed a lot. Actually, people are way more wise to this stuff this time around. People in the Coin Bureau Club Discord are always kind of bringing up unlocks. Everyone is very much aware of it, and I think in previous cycles it was something that people, we weren't really kind of on the ball with that. And it's a good sign of how much market participants are maturing and kind of getting to grips with how this market works. But the interesting thing about unlocks, and I think this one about Solana as well, is that I've seen kind of so much of the FUD around unlocks. It's a bit like they kind of feel a bit like Christmas in a way. I always feel that the build up to Christmas is the best part, and then actually Christmas Day itself is a bit of a nothing burger, and you just feel a bit hungover and stuffed. And it's sort of like, actually the really good part was the 2 weeks leading up to it. And I kind of think it's like inverse that with unlocks and FUD. People get all worried about, oh no, there's a huge unlock coming, oh, the price is going to tank. and it might, I'm not saying this is definitely what's going to happen, but I think a lot of the FUD tends to come before, and then the actual thing happens, and it's sort of like, okay,
Not a big
price
deal.
dips a bit, but yeah, not such a big deal.
Yeah, exactly.
So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. So like to get back to the thing about is it Solana's turn to do a U-turn, or is it Ethereum's time to shine? Like, I know people aren't very bullish on Ethereum, but I mean, there's a lot of, as far as like real world assets and layer twos, it can work, but there's a lot of ambiguity to it. But I'll just say like this, since Ben's not here, as a reminder, we'll use his does it bleed evaluation. And so far, and he's always talking about Ethereum going home for the valuation. And you can see this is on his site, ETH Bitcoin valuation. And you can do anything that you want to as far as a bleeder if it bleeds against Bitcoin. And it says right here. But what this is saying is that for every 0.0, like on 25th December 2021, for every 0.08 Bitcoin, you can have 1 ETH. And now you are down to 0.0282. So you're actually bleeding pretty heavily against Bitcoin. So to answer the person's question, we sound like Bitcoin maxes. It's only because this is what the chart's telling us. So like to do this, let's see, 0.02. So in case there's no confusion, what is 0.0282? So you take this 0.0282, and that's $2,748, and that's roughly the price of Ethereum right now. So if anybody's like, how does that? That's how it works. And we can just see that it's been quite a bleeder for quite some time. Can it come back? Sure. Just got to figure out exactly what it's going to be there for. It's going to be DePIN. It's going to be world assets. Is it going to be for payments? I don't think it's going to be layer ones for payments. That's for sure. But the layer twos, I mean, I've talked about this before. If you've used Base with USDC, it's super cheap, super fast, and it just works. So, I mean, there's always something that it can do.
Yeah. I think we talked about this not last week, because you had Dan on last week, didn't?
Yeah, it was a good one.
Wasn't he great?
He's a great guy, and like when him and Ben get together, it's much better if I'm the moderator, and those guys can go duke it out for their thought processes. That's for sure. Yeah.
To everyone watching as well, I saw all the comments saying, "Oh, Dan, it's so much better having Dan here than Guy." I took notes. I took notes. Don't worry, I won't forget. But yeah, no, it was great. Anyway, yes. Well, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, wasn't it? The last time you, me, and Ben were doing this together, and we were talking about Ethereum. I think. Like, I kind of feel it's lining up for this, all this talk of RWAs, because I was listening to a fascinating discussion today. I think it was the guys on the 1000X podcast. And they were saying how, like, a few years ago, everyone was talking about decentralization. Everyone cared about decentralization. Now, no one cares about decentralization. And I think that's true. It's a bit depressing, but it's true. But, like, retail users, as we were talking about earlier, they want it fast and they want it cheap, and that's what Solana gives them. Boom.
Boom.
Institutional users who want this tokenization of real world assets, etc., who are talking about trillions of dollars potentially on chain. They want security. They want the decentralization that Ethereum gives. And I just feel like, it's obviously on the Ethereum ecosystem. It's on people like Vitalik and the other Ethereum devs and the Ethereum Foundation and all these other people to make this happen. Like, it won't just fall into their lap. But like, it feels like the stars are aligning, where we have a situation whereby institutions use Ethereum, consumers use Solana, other consumers maybe use things like, some of Ethereum's layer twos, like Base, like you were talking about, Rob, or some of the other L1s out there. Like as we've said before, like, the pie is big enough. The potential here is big enough. If you get the world on chain, then we won't have too many L1s. We've got too many L1s at the moment, way too many. But like, there is a situation, there is a future where there is enough to go around to support a lot of L1s. Maybe not all the ones that we've got. and are getting every single day. But yeah, there's room to grow.
No, you're right. And like, how many guys, seriously, just between us, no one's watching. How many different projects do you get pitched a week for, like, hey, we're launching this, we're launching that?
Oh, I couldn't even say. Like, I don't really monitor the inbox, and like we've got Rahim, our COO, gets a lot of these approaches now, but it's a lot. It's a lot.
It's a lot. Like, I'm a very small channel compared to you guys, and I will get 2 to 4 offers a week, and those are the ones that I actually see and admit it to the spam filter. So like, they just keep coming and keep coming, and I look at these things and I'm like, do we even need all this stuff? I say we should just move forward with what we got now, whatever it is that's out there, and just say, this is it. Let's just improve this stuff, because the projects that we have are pretty solid, and they all have their own use case, right? We talk about Solana, we talk about Ethereum, you talk about Cardano being, and some people hate it, some people love it. I still like it. It's very safe and it can be used. It just needs to scale up and have greater TPS. And people would say, well, what about BNB? It's not decentralized. Just like what you said, some people don't care if it's decentralized or not. They just want it to work. However, that's going to bite them later on when you have vector attacks, or if you have the government knocking on your door, say, hey, turn that SQL spreadsheet off. Okay, and then that's how it works.
Yeah, well, that's what the guys, the 1000x guys, were saying as well. It may not matter now that decentralization is not really a thing, but yeah, once you're talking trillions, once the incentives go up, the temptation to try and get, like, say, a few hundred validators to conspire to manipulate the chain. That everyone has a price, don't they? So in that sort of situation, when we're talking about trillions upon trillions of dollars on chain, that's when decentralization will count. So I think we forget about it at our peril. It's very easy to just kind of take the sugar pill of fast, cheap, and centralized. But yeah, I mean, I think that's Ethereum has that. Ethereum has that decentralization.
It does, but man, it is slow and it is expensive. So we'll see if layer 2s take off or not. Or Sui guy, or maybe Sui is the next big one. Who knows? Yep.
That's one that I'm very bullish on. Someone was saying in the comments that Sui has a big unlock coming soon as well, and no one mentions it. Well, I'm mentioning it there. So Sui does have some big unlocks coming up. So, well, Sui has kind of regular unlocks. But yeah, that's definitely one I think to watch.
That's awesome. That means that it can crash, hopefully, as people sell off, and then maybe somebody can get in like at a good entry point. So congratulations.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Rob, I just want to ask you a couple more questions. Firstly, I'm going to ask you in a minute, like, if you've taken any profits or if you've made any adjustments to your portfolio. But before that, like, I think at the moment we're stuck in this kind of sideways chop, which is the sort of nightmare scenario for traders and stuff, isn't it? And I think one of the reasons why Bitcoin hasn't got back above 100K, one of the reasons why the altcoin market is suffering is because there just doesn't seem to be a catalyst at the moment. We had Trump being elected. Great, we have a pro-crypto president. We had Trump's inauguration coming up. Oh, he's going to sign a whole load of executive orders. And we had this talk about a potential SBR, Strategic Bitcoin Reserve, which for the moment does not seem to have come to much. So do you see any particular catalysts on the horizon? Do you think is there anything that springs to mind for you that could maybe kind of kickstart this market? And I just want to sort of frame this by saying that, like, the stocks are doing really well. Stocks are hitting all-time highs. So this must be the current slump that we're in crypto. This must be crypto specific rather than macro. So is there anything that you think that can kind of kick the market back into gear? You can't discount macro and say that it's there's an isolated cases. I know right now it looks like that way. The S&P 500 is hitting all-time highs, and of course Bitcoin is languishing. But I think it's also because there's some negative connotation around the markets itself, and they don't want to get into everything. I mean, like you said, Bitcoin right now, what are we at? 90, like you said, 97, 98K. It's pretty good.
I mean, as far as like a massive market cap of $2.3 trillion. Now, I'm not going to say that this Bitcoin strategic reserve is going to happen, but I mean, we've got states, it looks like over 14, 15 or so, and they've gone out of committee. So we'll see if they can actually go and be enacted. But it's a process, and nothing really ever happens quickly. So if that does or doesn't happen, I'm sure some states will adopt it, others won't. We'll see where we go from there. But the big question though is money supply, money printing, and so on and so forth. Like we always talk about the M2 money supply in the United States, right? As it just grows and grows and grows, and we take off. But has anybody really thought about like this? You can find over at Bitcoin. What is this? Bitcoin Counterflow, and it's the M2 global money supply. And if we take a look at it, I mean, it's the same thing as far as America goes, but there's a little hitch on this one. I don't know if I can zoom in. The global money supply, and this of course is the Bitcoin price, because people say, well, it's got to be, you have to have a good money flow. But look at this one. On September 22nd, 2024, you had 108 trillion as far as an M2 money supply globally, $108 trillion. And then it tanked. There's quantitative tightening, and Bitcoin price still went up. So I know people will say, well, it always has to do that. And there's plenty of examples here. But even if we don't have the money supply or the printer go burr, if quantitative tightening can reduce, I think we'll still be just fine. But there's also the macro effect, which is this was from Zero Hedge. And he talks about Chinese FX outflows. And this isn't, of course, money printing. This is just the movement of capital outside of China into other different assets or into different currencies. And they say that once this usually happens, and they put this over here, this was from October 2023. He says, like clockwork, every time China FX outflows, Bitcoin goes up. And from here, 2023, until like a year later or 6 months later, I think it was like up 100%. I think it happened over here as well. And then it went up. And now it looks like it's going to happen yet again. FX outflows as far as Q1 has been increasing. So again, I don't know. The macro still has to be in play. There still has to be some type of liquidity. There still has to be some type of reduction and tightening. And there is no market without the macro itself. Even if we went into a recession tomorrow, the 4-year cycles are over, because risk on assets really can't handle that massive downpour. Maybe it could, maybe it couldn't, but that's what I see. So right now, I think we're still pretty good. Recession's coming. I don't know when, but hopefully it'll be in 2026, 2027. And this year is pretty good. So there's a lot to digest, Guy. I mean, what do you think with that one? What do you see as far as like the big catalyst that's out there? Because that's the big thing.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right to flag up the macro, Rob. And I guess because the Fed minutes were out. I should try and find the tweet for this, but as I remember it, that there was an indication in those recent Fed minutes that they could start, winding QT down. They could start easing on that.
Nice. All right.
So that seems to be on the horizon. So that could be, that could be a catalyst, because the crypto market is so forward looking. We price things. We like to price things in, months ahead of them actually happening. So I think, that could even just more signals from the Fed that QT is coming to an end. Obviously, QT ending is not QE beginning, but
right.
it's a start, isn't it? It's a start. So that, I think, could be the catalyst to kind of kick things off again. You had that map of particular US states that I think that are ones considering or already accumulating Bitcoin. I think that could definitely be a wider narrative. We've mentioned that before. I think that perhaps rather than the idea of a US strategic Bitcoin reserve, it could just be individual states. I mean, that would still be massive, because I think what a lot of people forget is that most US states have a GDP that far exceeds pretty much every country in the world. I think depressingly, it was pointed out that like the UK, which, I mean, we're very proud of the fact that we're the world's like 5th or 6th largest national economy. I think the UK has the same as a GDP sort of on a par with Mississippi or something. Which is, I think,
That's not good.
If not the poorest state and one of them is just like, oh,
yeah.
okay, so
Sorry, guy.
yeah.
Sorry, we sucked up all the liquidity. It's all because of the dollar.
I know. It just feels like, we spent so long building the British Empire only to have this. But yeah, so going back to my point, like, yeah, these are all sort of massive standalone economies, these individual US states. So them accumulating could be huge. Again, I wonder whether we might see a national Bitcoin mining initiative from the US, maybe another country. Obviously, if you're a country that's using Bitcoin, like say Russia is,
yeah,
if you have your own Bitcoin miners, then you're able to verify verified transactions. So that's a big thing for any nation state that's wanting to use Bitcoin, and I think we're going to see more of that. We've also got things like, I think that would I think really change the game. If nation states are doing it. We've got things like regulations and stuff coming again in the United States, but like places, I think, again, to give the example of the UK, like the UK very much follows the US's lead, and I think other countries will too. So it's just that regulations take time, isn't it? So
yeah, that's the truth. I mean, I saw it in UK for the what is your legislative body over there, Micah?
Oh no, that was the EU one is EU is Micah, yeah.
Man, and it's not. It's also that, and it's everything that's in play. But you're in Dubai, and I just read an article about the UAB is doing the sovereign wealth fund. So for you guys, like, do you hear any rumors about over there about how much is it going to be put in, what they want to do, if they want to do it just for Bitcoin, or for the other assets they're looking at?
I haven't heard anything to that of that nature. Like, I think they're quite sort of, I think they kind of keep their cards fairly close to their chest. But I know that, like, I know that countries like the UAE, and I think other countries like the Gulf, this area, the GCC, the Gulf Cooperation Council, this kind of not federation, but this sort of loose alliance of Arab nations. I think they are all sort of very forward-looking. I think they're very sort of crypto positive, and they're also all very competitive with one another. So I think the fact that the UAE is interested in Bitcoin, I think almost certainly the Saudis are interested in Bitcoin, the Qataris, the Bahrainis, etc. I think so. We could see a lot more sort of sovereign investment from this part of the world, and obviously Saudi's the big one. I remember there was a bit of a meme in crypto like 2 years ago or something, that maybe the Saudis were going to come and start max bidding and fire everything up. So and they still haven't come yet, but maybe that could definitely be a thing at some point.
I think maybe more people are buying behind the scenes than we know. At least the smart ones are, and the other ones, of course, they'll join later. Nobody wants to be first, but nobody wants to be last. Exactly.
And as we've discussed, like, if you're a sovereign nation buying Bitcoin, or looking to buy Bitcoin, the last thing you're going to do is go, "Hey, we're thinking about buying Bitcoin. Anyone want to sell us some?" That's a way to not get your entry.
Unless you're Michael Saylor, then you just tweet it out all day long, and then just go, "I'm going to buy the top anyhow, so who cares? Let's let the dice roll."
Yeah, Michael Saylor's just like, "Give me a Bitcoin. I'll take it. I'll take it whatever price you want. Just give it to me." Yeah. Well, that leads me on to my last question, Rob, which is, just about you, where you are in the cycle. Have you taken any profits yet? Have you made any portfolio adjustments? Are you just sitting back and watching the carnage unfold?
Well, there's two things. Like, I always talk about taking profits along the way, and I've actually tweeted out on different time points when I've actually taken profits and talked about it. And every time I take profits, I'm always called a moron. It's amazing. And I'm like, well, for me, it's what works for me, right? My goals are not everybody else's goals. But we've done it a little bit along the way because, you have to, because it's easy to diamond hands. It's easy to buy the dip because we all know how to do that. What's hard is to actually sell. So I've sold a little bit along the way. And then actually this week, what is today? Thursday? Within the next 7 to 10 days, I'm going to have to sell a good amount. And it's not because that, the market is telling me to sell. It's because I've got personally, I've got a family member who needs help with purchasing a home. And that family member has a special needs kid. And so to do this, they pay so much in healthcare. I don't know what it is like in Dubai or UK, but the healthcare here it's super expensive, and it's not the greatest, even though our mortality rate continues to keep slipping. So they're like, hey, we need this, and we need this to happen, and maybe we can come to an agreement. Well, they're family. So what's great about this is that, everybody here watching probably, you did the hard job, which was buying in the bear market. Now, when things come to light where you're like, you need to help out somebody, then you can. And I can tell you right now, when I, sell and take those profits, because there are profits now, it's going to feel better to give those funds away than any Lambo or Porsche or anything else that I could possibly buy, which I never would, because I think those are ridiculous cars. So yeah, that's going to happen the next 10 days.
Okay. Well, I mean, that points to that flags up a really good point, isn't it? That I think, all this talk of, people love to say, oh yeah, just diamond handed or whatever, or why are you taking profits, etc. But it's like everyone has different circumstances, don't they? And if you need to sell in order to either make your own circumstances better or the circumstances of someone you love better, or to improve someone else's life or your own, then that's the time to sell if you have that opportunity. Yeah,
it is. I mean, this is the thing, people, I always get this about okay, if I just accumulate and I get this much, then I can start living my life. And then it's like, well, you'll never have enough, and it'll never be enough. And greed always begets greed. So it's the freedom to do what you want, when you want, not have to answer to anybody, and help out the people around you, improve yourself and those around. That's the freedom that everybody's talking about. So Bitcoin is not freedom. It can give you freedom, but it is not by just holding it saying, okay, now I'm free. You have to put it to use. And whether that be is whatever you want to do with it is up to you.
Yeah. So don't let other people just dictate your circumstances or dictate what you do with your crypto, whether you take profits or not, because their circumstances will not be in any way similar to yours. So they don't know that the forces pushing and pulling on you.
Yeah, exactly. So Guy, what about you? How about you're going to take some massive profits at some point? Or?
I came very close to taking some profits on Sui. When Sui got above $5, I was like, okay, I think I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna take some profits, and I'd set sort of about $5.60, I think it was, and it sort of went up to about $5.40, and it's now down around $3. So, but I'm, Sui is one of those assets that I've got a lot of conviction in. So, I think maybe just over $5, I will definitely take profits on that. Other than that, no, and that has meant holding some positions. I was up on an AI agent position, thinking I was a gigabrain, and now I can't even bear to look at it. So
don't look at it. Hey, I will say I want to thank you for Sui, because you're the one that talked about that when it was below. I know it was below 80 cents, and maybe even much lower than that. So it was a good call, and I own some myself. So I'm a little biased, but I think it'll do pretty well this cycle. Who knows?
I think so. Well, I think we have to thank Jess late of this parish, because she did a space on Discord with Adoni from Sui, who's one of the co-founders, who is a really articulate guy, very, very good at explaining it and selling it, etc. And I listened to that. I was like, I am bullish. So I think we have to thank Jess for that, and Adoni, of course. But lots to come from Sui, and lots to come from so many of these other projects as well. People getting down on these things. It's like this is how crypto works. It really does try its level best to squeeze out squeeze out those weaker hands, or the people who don't don't have convictions. So if you have that conviction, hold until the level that you want to take profits at is hit, and then take profits.
Well said. Wait, take profits, live your life.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, that is all the questions I wanted to ask you, Rob. I'm just having a look back and seeing if there are any comments I wanted to flag up. This gives me hope. Slumcat, utility season is upon us. Maybe not yet, but I really hope so. I really hope this is the catalyst for that.
Yeah, with utility, we mentioned Helium, which is a pretty cool project. You can actually purchase the plan, and it's reasonably priced. I want to say it's $15 for, I think it's up to 300 gigabytes, and then unlimited talk and text. And then also I think it's like $30 unlimited everything, which is pretty great if you think about it for that. And then World Mobile is I think either just rolled out their plan or going to roll out their plan for US customers for the same thing, for unlimited talk, text, and data. And that is multi-chain. That is on Binance Smart Chain, it's on Cardano, and it's on Base. And it's like you get to essentially own the network. So like that type of thing. And then these AI agents, Guy, I'm not going to ask you which one it was, because then people are like, oh, I go into that one. But like AI agents, I can see it moving forward. Like there's one called Talos that I like. But there's so many out there that you can get into, and there's so many. But I can see how some utility can do it. But a lot of these things that like are utility and it sounds reasonable, just they're not going to happen. And that's like, I know like that Teleport, the rideshare app, I was like, how are they going to deal with that with customer service? And of course it didn't do so well. I remember there was one, it was an Airbnb decentralized platform that they tried to start. And I'm like, who's going to deal with disputes on this one? And it never even took off, because there's no way that could actually work that I know of. So, yeah.
Well, maybe the, AI is going to be able to offer something in this respect. You talk about things like customer service. This is one of the big use cases for AI agents and stuff. Yeah. And there was a brilliant thing that I saw. One of the mobile networks, I know we've gone over time, but I'll leave you with this one. But one of the mobile networks back in the UK has developed an AI agent, and its personality is a sort of confused and rather sort of doddery grandmother. And the whole point of it is that when scammers ring up, she keeps them on the line. And they played this recording, and it was brilliant. This scammer sort of like, yeah, you need to download Google Play. You need to go onto Google Play. And she's sort of like, what? Yeah. Google Play? What's that? My phone screen's gone black. I just thought, wow, if this thing has a coin, I'm buying it.
Yeah, for sure. Especially if it can suck up enough time so other people don't get screwed over. Perfect. I'd invest in that too. Sure.
Yeah. But it's like, as some people have pointed out, a lot of these AI agents are basically chatbots with a meme coin attached, or meme coins with a chatbot attached, whichever way you want to look at it. It's very sort of speculative at the moment, but it is fascinating, and I think we're going to see more from that whole sector as well. So, yeah, something to be excited about.
Something to be excited about outside of Bitcoin.
Exactly. Okay, well, let's leave it there, because we've been going on for over an hour, and I'm sure we could go on even longer. But Rob, it's great to see you. We'll be back next week with Ben.
Yeah, Ben's channel.
On Ben's channel. And until then, everyone watching, thank you for tuning in. And stay positive, because there are good times ahead. We just can't be sure when, but they are coming.
That's right. Bear markets don't last forever, neither do bull markets, but they always go in a cycle. All right.
Absolutely.
I'm happy.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks, Rob. Thanks, everyone. See you next week.
See you, everybody.